Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the GeekVerse podcast, Spider-Man Retrospective.
It's not that cute. I guess it is. Oh, bastard.
I am the, insidious Kyle Smith.
No, that was last episode.
Whatever.
Jesus Christ.
Well, I started off with good and went downhill, so I'll pass it off.
I'm the adamantium-filled Trav Snell.
Oh.
You even got a t-shirt for the great team-up we're going to talk about today.
I
Very
don't.
excited.
I'm the mutant Dylan Musk.
Boom. That's how it's done.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, so good. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've seen this before, you know it works. If not, we are reviewing the 1994 animated classic Spider-Man, the animated series. We started all the way from episode 1. We're in season 2 now, episode 4. So we're going to review 3 episodes.
Yep.
Let's do it. The Mutant Agenda.
Starting off with another two-parter here.
Mm-hmm.
Good stuff.
This is a big one. I read something.
Again, did not see the title for this one.
Oh. So yeah, I read a little synopsis if you don't know. If you haven't seen the episode, want a little refresher, we're about to go. It is a big one. Got a juicy one right now. Spider-Man begins to worry about his growing mutation. In order to seek cure, he heads to Charles Xavier's mansion, where he encounters the X-Men. A brief fight occurs, after which Spider-Man explains his plight to Xavier. Sure, he used plight. It's strange. Professor X tells Spider-Man that he cannot cure him, and he angrily leaves the mansion. Beast tells Spider-Man to go to Herbert Landon, who is working on a cure for mutants. Afterward, Landon's men capture Beast. While Spider-Man is watching Landon's demonstration, the facility is attacked by Hobgoblin. However, a mysterious telekinetic force holds the ceiling in place long enough for Spider-Man to escape. Wolverine begins to worry about Beast's disappearance. He discovers that Beast spoke with Spider-Man before he disappeared and sets to find out Spider-Man.
That is a mouthful.
Yeah, the Mutant Agenda.
Take a sip of water.
That gives you... Yeah.
No, yeah, this episode is great.
So spicy.
Oh, yeah, so good. How did you two feel... Right, we blew the cover as far as our overalls. We all thought it was great. But how do you two feel? Obviously, Dylan, I think you saw the title. So, did you have an idea that the X-Men were coming in? Or did the Mutant Agenda yourself?
I think I got accidentally spoiled because in the description it says Professor Xavier, and I was like, damn it.
But even then, you couldn't, at least it still didn't say the whole X-Men were there.
True,
so,
yeah.
you Snapchat, I mean, it is a good shot of when he gets into the danger room
and
the whole squad walks
in. First it's Wolverine and someone else, and then the rest of them come behind him. And yeah, very good. Very good shot.
Great shot, yeah.
In my note, I says, "Oh my God, Wolverine, X-Men, and that theme song!" Exclamation marks. Oh my God, this is amazing. Jaw dropping. I didn't expect it. Wolverine came out of nowhere. I was pumped on life. I couldn't believe it. It was so good.
Yeah, well, that
unreal.
For me, this is even now thinking about, but as a kid, that was a huge thing. We talk about all times. It's Avengers and Justice League, all these crossovers. Yeah. But to think, and if you don't know this, I guess I'll preference for you. But at the same current time that Spider-Man was going, X-Men the animated series was going, and the same thing. X-Men the animated series, I think, even has more love than the show. It's always talked between that and Batman as far as the two, and Spider-Man's kind of the number 3. So it's because the X-Men show is so strong, and that was the one that really was the first one I think.
So is that the same voice actors and stuff as this one?
Yeah, that's the exact same group.
Universe.
Yeah, so it's it was legitimately a crossover between shows. And you think about it, obviously it worked because they're all on the same network, but still just thinking about that now, it's that's really cool for the writers and all the teams to get together and have that episode, because it's just and I saw this as a kid, so I lost my mind, but even now watching this, it's such a fun episode, and they do lots of tropes. It's not even just Spider-Man with the X-Men. You see the X-Mansion, you see the danger.
Yeah, because even in today with all of the Marvel stuff that's going on, we don't have the X-Men teaming or coinciding with them.
Yeah, so it's nice to see.
We might, I guess, with Deadpool or something, but I don't know.
I doubt it. Tune in GeekVerse in a few years, maybe, but
yeah.
But yeah, so I had the same thing, and just seeing my first notes, X-Mansion, X-Men, crossover, everything's so cool about this episode, and just their even initial meetup is just lots of fun. Spider-Man, when Gambit's just I left the Fatal or whatever, and he's having to fight the Sentinels and everything, which Spider-Man dispatches of them pretty easily. X-Men should maybe recruit him.
I was gonna mention, this is actually my first ever Gambit. I've never I don't know.
Same here.
I guess so. What else I would have seen him from, because I've obviously heard of him, and we've been talking about it a lot on GeekVerse just in the last year, but this is my first time actually seeing him.
He has a quick kind of half an hour role in X-Men Origins.
I guess the only time I've seen him isn't he in Marvel? He's in one of the Ultimate Alliance games.
Yes, he is. Yeah.
So that's the only other time I've seen him.
Very beloved character.
He's very cool, yeah.
Yeah, he's
I
very
like his
cool.
voice in this one.
He's Cajun.
I liked all of them. I think they all looked cool, and I didn't have any troubles with any of their voices. So.
Yeah.
Especially Wolverine. Wow, that's a nice.
Oh, it's
badass
so
voice.
like this, and this is when we talk about like I think we talk about once like there's some people that don't like Hugh Jackman's one, and I think this is a good portrayal for you guys to kind of see if like I love Hugh Jackman, but the really hardcore X-Men Wolverine fans, you can kind of see maybe why some people don't like Hugh Jackman because he's not as hard edged as Wolverine.
Yeah.
So it's like I kind of
he's got like I guess more charismatic or something.
who Jackman or
Jackman.
like he's more to me he's always played more like the hurt lone soldier where this is kind of like the gnarly badass, but to me I think in the movies why it doesn't always work because he's your main character, right? And you still not like him. That's why I hope if Marvel ever gets X-Men that Wolverine's like their Hulk, like he's their side character who's chomping on cigar. Well, I guess you can't smoke in PG-13, so he's chomping on e-cigs or vapes.
Yeah.
Wolverine vaping in the corner.
Oh god.
It's Canadian bacon flavored, but that portrayal of Wolverine in this adaptation is one of people's favorites. Like they love Wolverine. Like I think in this time in the '90s, I think this really started. People like myself, like that, love this character. That started. So the voice, everything, the attitude, they really nailed it.
Yeah.
So,
and not even that, we also get Hobgoblin back in here.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's to me this
afterwards as well.
Yeah, this episode is just like it's just kind of like it's like a fanboy's dream kind of. You know, like this is what we were talking about in the previous.
I was definitely pretty stoked too.
Yeah, like when we were talking about in the previous episode how we liked them all, but when we be like, oh, this episode you need to see. This two-parter is one that I'd recommend. Like you gotta see because it's again. There's lots of stuff going on. Is Kingpin in this one or no?
I don't think so.
No, but you got the stuff with Landon, you got the stuff with the mutants, you got X-Men, you got Spider-Man, you got his mutant disease, and you got Hobgoblin. And I list off those things and you'd be like, oh, it's a little confusing for like a 44-minute episode, but it's like they make it all work really well.
Yeah.
And that's the best thing is they
all intertwine so well.
Yeah, and having Hobgoblin back right away, you get excited. But like I guess that's where I was going is you're already excited by X-Men versus or just X-Men Spider-Man, but when you throw Hobgoblin, then you're like, oh man, like this is so much fun. And it's I think both parts are lots of fun. The episodes.
I have Hobgoblin. Like Hobgoblin is back. Oh my god, because it was just already like jaw-dropping X-Men.
He was all of our one of our favorites from last season.
Yeah, and then Hobgoblin came out of nowhere. It was great.
Oh yeah, just in some warehouse being creepy as
throwing
always.
His pumpkin bombs.
Oh, it was awesome.
Let's see. Oh, I like one point here. Wolverine says, "Why don't we go digging for information?" And he's threatening Spider-Man, so he's pretty much just insinuating he's just gonna stab the shit out of him. So I like that.
I really liked also the rendition of Beast because I've only seen him in well I guess that there's two separate versions now from like the movies, but I like that it's kind of like the Kingpin thing where he's just like way more massive than I'm used to, and I really like it.
Same thing, everyone really loves this Beast one, and like the Beast from X3 is what they use as like an inspiration from this, because that's what like the X-Men animated show has many of everyone's like, oh, this is my favorite, like between Wolverine, Gambit, and Rogue, like even Cyclops, like that's why everyone does love that show, is because it's just like, yeah, that's how this character should be. And I've always wanted them to do that with Beast. I know it may have to take some CGI in real life, but I like he's so big and his voice is so good too. I don't know who the voice actor is, but it's just fantastic. Like he has like this powerful voice, but it's very friendly, and he does have that kind of like professor like voice to it, so caring voice. So I like that, and I like that in this episode they spend a lot of time covering the classic like freak versus gift sort of thing with the main thing. Like they have a lot of.
I was hoping for a little bit more of Xavier because he's like, I guess he's only in a couple lines. I know, but yeah, because it's more focused on Wolverine and Beast out of the rest of them.
Oh yeah,
and I guess some more of them come out in episode or the part 2 rather. But yeah, man, it was so hyped to see them all in one room together.
I said, well, we already talked about Hobgoblin coming back, but then Landon tries to kill him. He leaves a bomb in his briefcase, and Hobgoblin goes, "You can't silence me." They make hints upon it later, but they never really reveal what Hobgoblin knew about him. Other than, I guess he just knew that he was making this mutant sort of weapon. Yeah. Was that it?
I think that was it.
They didn't really stress
I guess so,
that.
because, I mean, Hobgoblin we can assume that he probably still wants to mess up Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. But you never. I think he wants to mess up everybody, to be honest. 'Cause, like, that's the thing that
it's pretty volatile.
Yeah. Like, you don't want to be around him. And I love his introduction back in the series. How he's like shadow. Also, you notice him, but like they do like the shadows on him, and he walks up, and like he's just a.
I was wondering if that was going to be like a different character actually, because I mean, I don't know all the comic book stuff, but I know at least there's Hobgoblin and there's also Green Goblin, so I was wondering if that would be another character.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it was very shadowy at the beginning. Yeah.
Oh, I was right. Kingpin was in this episode because him and Smythe are talking about that Kingpin wants to have an army of mutants. So I don't think he plays too much into this, but at one point they do have a scene where he's kind of found out, like he is, of course, anytime there's something to do with power or anything like that, Kingpin's like, oh, gotta get my hands on
Power?
it.
What's that?
Yeah, and he's just like, oh, well, there's this mutant thing, I want to have an army of mutants, which makes sense. You know, like, we go over the villain's plan. There's not really much of a villain's plan in this episode. It's kind of a lot of variable
Well, I mean,
things.
even going back to, like, Hobgoblin in general, he just wants money. Like, that's his motivation, or he just wants, I guess, power, too. But he mostly is just in it for some cash, and so that's
Well,
why...
I'd say this episode he's more in it for a little revenge, though. Like, I feel like it's because Landon tries to kill him, and until episode 2, when he does maybe some computer hacking, he's not really doing anything with a plan. It just seems like he just wants to get back at Landon. So it's like, when he's not doing his money, like, stealing stuff, he's like, oh, if you screw me over, I'm gonna come back and, like, screw you over even more. And we don't even know, like, how big, and I'm lumping stuff in episode 2, we don't know how much he's screwed him over yet. But he's like, obviously he's doing goblin-like stuff. So that's why I like in this episode that he was just kind of like, yeah, sure, like, I want to go over there and mess him up. And he gets in the way a lot of times in this and the next episode. Multiple times. I think at one... Oh, yeah, Spider-Man says this to Beast. He says, excuse me, with the solid X. He emphasized the X.
also, just right after that, Beast has a nice line. We're all alone until we accept our need for others. I thought it was a very, very beautiful line.
I feel like he's the guy, like, if you were stoned, he'd drop the most knowledge all the time. He's like, whoa. I've never been stoned, but, like, I feel like Beast is, like, a big stoner.
He makes you think.
To deviate to some stuff we always talk about, great stuff, talk about Peter's love life. At one point, because he's thinking about maybe potentially stopping Spider-Man or just running away.
Yeah.
And he goes,
Classic.
Classic. Why do I torture myself with thoughts? Why do I torture myself with thoughts of being with MJ? And then I had an exclamation marks that the last episode, they just kissed. So, like, I feel like they're... And I know what he was trying to say as far as, like, oh, I might be too dangerous eventually. But the thing was, it just didn't really fit. Of, like, if they didn't kiss, this made sense. But it just feels like they're probably an item now, right? They kissed, like...
Well, I think it goes back to, like, unless we're in these two-parters, it always seems like there's an ambiguous amount of time between, like, episodes, right? So, like, that could have been, like, 2 weeks ago, and it could have been, like, he was busy fighting another crime, and he's maybe seen her once or twice in those 2 weeks, right? So it's obviously not something they really... touch on, but
it's fair enough.
That's why like that's one thing that's kind of annoying is it seems like no matter how much progress or like no progress that happens with Mary Jane and Felicia, it always seems to kind of reset a little bit at the end of an episode, which makes sense because if you're watching this on TV back in the day, you're just going to see a random episode. You're not even going to necessarily see the parts next to each other.
I think it does level out though eventually, like his dating stuff. I think eventually it gets to like parts where it's like, okay, it makes a bit more sense, more concurrent. But I felt it was just a little strange.
It is a slow evolution though. Because it's always going back and stuff.
Well, that's what I thought. It was classic.
Go up line, go back to.
They just kiss and it's like, I like that when Wolverine is worried. I'm a sucker for it. You get a nice like Wolverine Jean scene there when she's just like, like you gotta be careful. Like she just gives some advice. Classic Wolverine, not really listening to it, doesn't really give a fuck, but I always like anytime Wolverine and Jean are together, so it's a good time. Let's see. Oh, this is one thing I had as a comedic thing. He's going to he's talking with Peter, and he's talking to Cecily. I think that's her name, is the one Landon's girlfriend or whatever.
Oh, okay, is that the assistant lady?
Yeah.
Okay, I was. And all of my notes, I have the assistant. I could not remember her name.
So at one point, so this is the point where B said, "Oh, you should go find this Landon guy, or like go to his presentation." And Peter's going there. As Peter Parker, he's going there. He bumps into Cecily, and Cecily just kind of makes this comment about like, "Oh, I hope we can solve this mutant problem. They're all freaks." And then he's just like. He said, "I'm surprised at you, Cecily." And then he not walks away from her angrily. He literally, in public, runs away from her. So they're standing there. He says, "I'm surprised that you would say that." And then he just runs. He books it into the corridors. And, like, it's a cartoon, so it's fine. But if you think about it in real life, like, he could have just walked away. But I found it really funny that he ran at full speed away from her in public. And I was like, God, Peter, you're emotional right now. So I had that because it was just like, that was great.
I guess we should... give some context here. I guess this happens in every episode that I kind of mentioning as they brought up in episode 1 is that his powers he's maybe losing control. And so every episode, like
it's
1, 2, and 3, they do mention that. But now in episode 4, Like, I think it kind of amps it up another level on top of that.
Yeah, and he's
so,
more worried about
and
it.
so that clearly has an effect on Peter's emotional state too, and just like.
So you're saying that's why he's just running around public like crazy?
I'm just saying, like, there's a lot going on in this season, and then you add on the fact that, you know, he's also maybe going to lose his powers or maybe turn into, like, a Venom sort of thing. Like,
But what I don't understand is that he sounds like he is upset that... He doesn't sound like he's upset losing these powers, that he just wants to be normal again.
I think normal for him is having powers without any strings attached.
Yeah, I think that's
what I was kind of.
Yeah,
I interpreted.
Yeah,
that.
I got the same as Dylan. Like back to normal, like what he knows is normal now. I don't think he wants because he didn't make any other statements, but like not wanting his power. So I took it that way as well.
Okay, because that's what I was thinking. Is like, is this? You mean like he wants to be normal, so he could just like be with MJ, not have to worry about all of this stuff? Because that's kind of the vibe I was getting from this episode. It was more like Peter just real, or I guess Spider-Man just really just upset of the situation that's going on, and that's why he wants a cure. Because feel like the only reason why I'm saying this is because the cure was to get rid of mutants and to not have his mutant power. So that's why I took it. He wants to be normal, and that's why he's looking for a cure.
Right. I think at this point though, it was. I don't think he necessarily knew that Landon was trying to like abolish these powers.
No, not at all.
I think because at this point he was just like trying to control them or something. That's
well,
why it was.
Beast did say it was a cure, so they did know that, but they didn't know obviously that like spoilers. Landon wants to kill the mutants, but he just thought that it would maybe get rid of his mutate things because the thing is he has his powers, but I always took this like he got the powers and then like a gene from the powers started to mutate. So I still think if he takes this cure, he'll have his powers because powers are technically non-mutation. I think he got a mutation from his powers.
Yeah,
right.
Science, bitch. Getting really deep into it. I like they really explain Beast's ties with Landon, and they talk about how, which is very strange, that Beast gets like a mini origin story. I cannot remember the X-Men series, I think it's been a couple of years, but it's like, he gets like an origin in a Spider-Man episode, so kind of weird. Like, the next time I watch the X-Men, I'm going to be looking out for that, because he gets a mini origin.
And does this version of Beast, can he like, I guess he can't go back and forth.
No, he's stuck as Beast.
Right,
yeah.
okay. That's, yeah. No, I liked that. I really liked Beast in this, and he's kind of iffy in some of the movies, in my opinion. But I really liked. Obviously, it's just a 20-minute episode of Spider-Man animated series, but I really liked his particular rendition.
Yeah,
I think I didn't mind him at first, but then when we talk about the second part, that's where it really ramped up for me. So.
Like liking him or not liking him?
Liking him more. Yeah.
We talked about bit I said I wonder how Goblin found out about the secret, but it's Goblin. He probably just.
To be honest,
he can fly around. You know, he's very sneaky, very skeevy, and he doesn't care about anyone. He'll just fuck him up. So you know, if anyone's in his way, he could just kill him. He probably doesn't care.
That's true. Yeah, I feel like for me, this entire episode, I was still in awe that I was watching X-Men and Hobgoblin in one episode. And I kind of just blocked everything out.
And the last thing I had is the episode ends with Wolverine and Spider-Man about to be fighting.
Yeah.
They're in an alley and
there's one thing that we definitely haven't talked about yet, but go ahead.
No. You want me to go ahead?
Yeah.
Okay, and then the episode ends, I guess. We'll carry back. It ends with Hobgoblin saying, "Oh, two birds, one stone."
Yeah.
And he's looking at them tussle, and he has a bomb, and that's how it ends. It goes to be continued. But
I like it, and I think it's in that scene or someone calls Hobgoblin a fool, and then Spider-Man's like, personally, I'll never call you a fool. That would be an insult to fools everywhere.
Forgot about that.
Hobgoblin's smart. Come on now. What was the thing that you wanted?
Uncle Ben. So
I forgot about that.
I think it's right after the scene.
Yeah.
It's right after. There's a scene where
he looks at Aunt May.
Spider-Man. Spider-Man. He goes to MJ's window and he has that quote that you said earlier.
He's thinking about leaving.
Yeah, and then goes to Aunt May, and then he's walking down his hallway and he sees a picture of Uncle Ben, and then he has a little flashback to
fishing.
Them fishing back in the day, and so I actually wrote the quote down because I thought it was really nice, but. Peter as a kid, I guess he was frustrated. He couldn't do it, and he's like, he's like, always seem to have bad luck. And then he hits him with some real good stuff. Boy, good or bad luck is nothing but the right or wrong mix of opportunity, preparation, and confidence. Now I know you're prepared because I had a hand in that, and son, what you lack is confidence. Peter, you can do anything as long as you don't give up on yourself.
Bravo, bravo.
Beautiful line, Uncle Ben. I absolutely love that scene. So good.
Well, it was good because they do that, remember, in the Mysterio episode as well, when he's thinking about giving up being Spider-Man. And it's always comes back to Uncle Ben. Whenever he's like on that line of maybe I'm done doing this, Uncle Ben comes back around. So, yeah, you're right. I'm glad you brought that up because that was a good point
It's a big one,
come back to. Want to give our thumbs up or thumbs down for this episode?
Thumbs up.
Oh, for sure.
I'm going 2 thumbs up.
Thumbs
Love
way
this
up.
episode. It's great. We'll go right into the next episode, Mutants Revenge.
Yep.
Wolverine catches
Part 2.
Part 2. So this is just after, like I said, Hobgoblin has found Spider-Man and Wolverine. They're fighting, and he's about to throw a good old pumpkin bomb on him. Wolverine catches up with Spider-Man, who is hot on the trail of the missing Hank McCoy. Meanwhile, Hobgoblin steals the mutant technology information from Dr. Lannon and has prepared... that Dr. Lannon has prepared for Kingpin. However, Dr. Lannon is actually working on a cure he claims to the public is possible. He is actually working on creating mutant soldiers for Kingpin. Or does he have his own sinister agenda planned?
Whoa.
Meanwhile, Lannon's assistant, Cecil, or whatever the fuck her name is. It
I
gives
don't
her
think-
last...
Probably not Cecil. Probably Cicely.
Cecily, I think it's that, Cecil. Lannon's assistant struggling with keeping her secret of being a telekinetic mutant to herself, who saved Spider-Man from the collapsing ceiling in the first episode, which you did mention.
Okay,
before.
so I actually did want to bring something. We're just going to quickly go back to episode 4 here.
They're tied. Come on,
It's
our podcast.
There is that scene where the building is like crashing down.
To preference this, Hobgoblin was trying to get, for people who hadn't seen it, Hobgoblin was trying to get Lannon. He throws some pumpkin bombs for a diversion, and the roof's about to come down on a bunch of people, innocent people.
And so Spider-Man, he's using his web to try to keep the structure up long enough for the people to get out. And then Landon's like, or Cicely's like, we gotta stay and help him. And Landon's like, Cecil, good old Cecil. Yeah, Cecil's like, yo, we gotta save this guy. And Landon's like, no, I'm peacing out. And I remember I was watching that, and honestly, I didn't know that she had powers at this point, so I was like, what do you think you're gonna do? Like,
same.
Well, there's absolutely nothing you can do to help.
Well, because they made note of it, so people, if you haven't seen it, the Spider-Man's trying to web up the roof, and then all of a sudden the roof starts to shift, and he's like, huh, that's weird. Did that tip you off that she was immune, or were you still, like, did that not correlate at all? Like, when you saw
I didn't tie it to her.
No. Okay.
I thought clearly something's going on. There's a lot of magical people in this world, but I didn't think that it was her necessarily.
To be honest, I kind of just looked past that. I didn't think. I thought just like, oh, that's weird. Like the roof collapsing is weird. Again, I kind of just thought that was just a weird comment he said, but I didn't really put in because again, we're in the X-Men crossover world that I didn't think. Oh, it's telekinetics type thing. Right. So the reveal, I was. Again, blown away. I didn't even expect that.
For a little heads up, for the people who don't know, it's revealed that, like it said there, she was a mutant and she has telekinetic power. So she's kind of a hypocrite. You know, she's helping with this cure, but she was just scared. She reveals later on that she has a mini arc throughout the episode. But let's see.
This episode also brings back a good old Mariah Crawford.
Maria.
It's Mariah.
I know it is.
It's
our constant.
No.
Maria, Cecil.
I forgot the quote. After Spider-Man and Wolverine have their fight and they realize they should just be working together.
Like all heroes.
I think they kind of bonded over Hobgoblin going ham.
Oh yeah.
But the fight is good. Before you threw your notes, I did like they gave at least a couple minutes to Spider-Man and Wolverine fighting. It was a good fight. Like, I could watch a whole episode of that, so that was a standout for me.
What was the quote?
That I have. Oh, because they're like, oh, how am I gonna get through this door? Because they're like trying to break in somewhere, and then was it?
You're jumping ahead to the end of the episode. Is it? So the door with the wall, because the door is locked and Wolverine has to claw his way through the wall.
Oh.
It's fine. He can drop it now.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's like, claws are a lot cooler than doors after he gets through the entire room and everything. So I thought it was great.
Well, I got one too. I think Spider-Man says this to Wolverine. I think it's Spider-Man to Wolverine and Wolverine Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man says, I'm impressed. And then Wolverine says, I'm not here to impress. And then he just like chucks something at him. Like, he's just such a dick in this episode and it's great. But then like the classic, what we use about Hobgoblin is he does something with the camera to show that Spider-Man or Wolf, like there's a camera up against Lannon's base to show Wolverine and Spider-Man there. They eventually start working together. But he pretty much sets up the situation so Spider-Man and Wolverine will be going after Landon. So once again, he just scurries off and he goes into this computer base where he hacks some stuff of Landon's, everything like that. But once again, it's that thing of he's playing two or three other people off one another, so he can go do his own stuff. He could have kept trying to go after Spider-Man, but he kind of bows out. He's like, oh, I can do something else. And then he goes and finds that creepy computer lady screen. Yeah. And I love when he hacks it over and it's his face. Yeah. Super cool. Like the version of the 3D. I gotta get it as like a lock screen. Like it's so cool.
Yeah, that was pretty neat.
I like that. How it's just classic Hobgoblin using those two as like a diversion, and he's just like, oh, I'm gonna go do my stuff here. And we don't really know what it is. Obviously, he's taken some stuff from Landon. Yeah. He's hacked the computer, but we don't.
That scene too was funny because I think it was Hobgoblin's quote right after that. He's like, "Oh, I'm such a bad hacker, bad." He just like I don't know what that was about. It was just like a moment of insanity, and I really like that. Because clearly, Hobgoblin's a pretty messed up dude, but it was really awesome when he was just like just flying off into the distance.
He just seems like he's gotta miss his pills, you know, like he needs a little
something.
We talk about as always. Now we get a clear image of this episode. The villain's plan, as Landon just wants to, he reveals that this isn't a cure for mutants. He wants to take out mutants, and apparently this thing will kill mutants. So he's lying to the public. He's lying to Fisk, as we talked about. His plan is to kill mutants. Makes sense. The classic, comic book X-Men villain thing. Want to get rid of the villains. He's made this like cure, so works out pretty well. So I have the Wolverine busting through the wall, and then when that happens, when he's fighting, the X-Men theme is just on full blare.
So good.
Yeah, the music in this episode in particular was very good.
Lots of his X-Men, you'd love the X-Men score. They are some sick stuff.
But I like the way it shifts back and forth. So like if Wolverine is knocking someone out, it'll play like that sort of theme, and then we'll like switch right back to the Spidey theme, and it's the way they do it back and forth like throughout this whole scene,
so good.
And then they just have it like lay down for a little bit, waiting for the next moment of action. It's really, really good, really well done.
I guess one thing we talked about a little bit, we skimmed over a bit, that Landon has Beast captured in a cage.
Yeah, that happened in episode 4.
Yeah, like the end, and then this one it's a lot of him talking to Beast in the cage.
Yeah.
Well, I guess like the origin, a little back and forth, and then so he's literally over like just some sort of mutant acid or something like that. The reason I bring that up is because at one point, this is the point Wolverine and Spider-Man are trying to save Beast, they're fighting all these guys, and some rope gets cut or wire, and Beast falls. Spider-Man gets up and gets the crate, and one of my favorite lines, he says, "Don't make me laugh," because he's holding the crate over to the acid, and just great, and then Wolverine's just down there kicking ass. But
that scene was... Did you guys feel like that scene was a little awkward? I felt like it was a little bit weird, honestly.
I felt
like the way how like... I don't know, I guess Beast was holding on to Wolverine, and then Wolverine kind of gained his consciousness back and grabbed on. And the whole time Spider-Man's like holding them, and it just seemed like they were there way longer than they needed to be.
I'll say that, it was definitely long, because like to set this up, Beast is in the cage, Wolverine sees him, and he jumps at the cage and has electricity all around it, and Beast goes, "Logan, don't," and he catches the cage, knocks Wolverine out, catches Logan so he doesn't fall in acid, the thing's starting to break, and Spider-Man gets up there. It's a very trapeze thing. I'll agree, I think it went on a little probably too long, but I liked the setup of like this like Tower of Doom, like one guy holding another guy, and like. But I agree, they did scene there quite well, because it cuts to a scene after.
It wasn't like annoyingly long. It was just like a little disjointed.
The pacing,
the pace, because the pacing so far, like in season 2, has been like chop, like even maybe a little too quick sometimes. But that seemed a little stretched out.
Well, because in the middle, I have it of him holding the crate. You get a scene of Kingpin and Smythe just bickering, and Kingpin in this episode, I think it's the first time we see it. He threatens to beat Smythe pretty much, because Smythe has this floating wheelchair. He takes it and he threatens to like crush him or hurt him or something. So this is the first time we've seen Fisk like acting like violently towards Smythe. But then after that, we cut right back to the crate thing. So it was like Kingpin once again, classic, still just all over. But I just had to put that down. As you can see, it seems like there's not huge amounts of character development in the show, but they're showing Fisk in like a little bit of like a meaner light now, because before they kind of had like a nice rapport.
Because I guess Smythe has always been that guy that works with Kingpin, who's always been there, like always.
He's a right hand man ever since season 1.
Even his dad. There's always been like a little bickering between them, but in this episode in particular, for sure.
Wolverine, when he wakes up from being passed out, he says, "Did I miss any calls?"
Yeah, nice. One quick question I had. I guess we haven't really talked about Mariah yet, but what I thought she and Kraven like left in the end of her episode.
Well, I think
you guys remember, because I guess I thought they went off on like some cruise ship or something. It makes sense for her to come back, but I don't know. It seemed a little disconnected.
I think you're right, but I think what we're supposed to take it is he's staying in the jungle doing his stuff, and she went back to New York. So she went with him to Africa, just to hang out for a bit, and she's back in New York. Because remember. Coming up in an episode, she does call him, and he's in the jungle. Remember, Mariah and Kraven do have a conversation.
Oh, really?
Yeah, She calls him because she says she's getting worried about Spider-Man.
Oh, okay.
So he is in the jungle. So that's, I guess, to establish that I guess someone gave him a job after all this Craven business, but you know.
Well, it's happening in New York. You don't know what's happening on the other side of the world.
I mean,
plus he's qualified.
When it comes to like people exploring jungles, Craven, he's got quite the resume for sure.
Oh, for sure.
He's even
He went back to his
concrete
old
jungles.
He's fought like 4 lions multiple times.
Yeah.
Without even a single scratch on his
Kidnap
body.
Robbie.
Yeah.
His traps are great.
Yeah.
Another line that Wolverine drops, he tells Spider-Man makes a smart remark at him, and he says, "Shut up, you puny little geek." I audibly laughed when he did that. Like, he's on point in this episode, Wolverine. I love it. One thing I always liked as a kid, and it happens. I can't remember if there's another crossover, but I like the little flirtiness between Spider-Man and Rogue.
Okay, I have that as well too. I wasn't too sure because I have.
There's a little bit of a spark
what's happening between. It's like, is that girl? Because I didn't know what her name was. Like, is she hitting on Spider-Man? Like,
that's Rogue, yeah.
Rogue. Okay.
So like,
I know she could fly also.
Well, she's in the movie she can't, but she can in the comics, yeah. Which once again, I felt like these episodes maybe should have came before the Mary Jane kiss, because like he's flirting a little bit there, and then after he thinks about
to be
leaving.
fair, I didn't pick up on that. Between those two.
Okay.
So
I think it's there because she says something about
it wasn't like that. That exaggerated.
She says like an innuendo line, and she kind of like rubs his cheek and something like that.
Oh, and then he like saves. I think in the first episode, he like kind of saves her. He
does it again later.
And then she's like, "Oh, do you just do this to all the girls or something like that?"
Yeah. They jammed so much content into. Well, I guess like even 17 minutes because the credits. It's hard to pick up on every
oh yeah, there's a lot. How did you like about, so what happens to Landon? He eventually falls in this chemical muck, turns into pretty much a Godzilla monster.
Yeah, it goes from killing mutants to turning normal people into exaggerated mutants.
Yeah, how did you guys feel about this? Because it's someone I was watching, I was like, are they gonna be fine with this or they might hate it? I wasn't sure. I thought there was a chance.
Well, it's your classic like big monster. It's not. I would say like. I don't know, obviously he doesn't really say much. He's kind of just like that big, strong force. It's kind of like how we go back to Spider Slayers, but I think they're slightly cooler than Spider Slayers. I don't know.
He needed energy for this, didn't know. He turned into a big monster and needed energy to survive.
He was kind of boring, honestly. Like, he was just climbing buildings and only for a little bit before the X-Men popped off on him.
Yeah.
I like to see them all like group up and fight him, but as a villain, he was kind of boring, I guess.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think it was the kind of the weakest part of the entire episode. As soon as I saw him into this green monster, it's like, oh, like this is where it's going, and I was kind of upset, and I didn't really like the look of him either. Of kind of like this big Godzilla.
Is that like a known character of any sort?
I couldn't tell you. I have no like
that
name.
He didn't seem like a significant character.
No, like that name is not ringing. I don't think I've ever read a comic with him in. I guess the reason why. Really is maybe not the coolest, but the reason why I like it is because it gives a big foe for the entire team to fight. So that's the only reason why I give it a pass, because it's like you get Spider-Man with the X-Men fight. Because if it was just like Doc Ock or something, it'd be like it wouldn't be believable, right? If it was Sinister Six maybe, but that's the only reason why. If it was Spider-Man versus this thing alone, I'd be like, this is lame. But because the X-Men team up, I actually like the villain. Just because it just gives them a big thing to fight. And it's like a 3 to 4, maybe 5 minute fight scene. It's not that long, but it's like, it's fun. You get to see the X-Jet. You get to see Cyclops calling the shots.
I like to...
Storms in there.
It's like I think it's in episode 4 when they... Yeah, it is in episode 4. When they go... When Spider-Man's like first leaving the X... What is it? Just the
X-Wing?
The X-Jet?
No,
or the X-Mansion?
Yeah, the X-Mansion. He goes into like that simulation with like, the Sentinels. So they're fighting like those giant guys in there, and then I guess... So it's kind of cool that ends up being like their final villain, I guess.
Yeah, big guy.
I don't know. What'd you think of him, Travis?
Of the villain?
Yeah.
Yeah, just like I said, if it was just Spider-Man, when like Landon overall, I like him for why he was there, because I felt like they worked in a good way for the crossover to make sense, and that says a lot for this like 1994 cartoon thing. They could have easily just had X-Men and Spider-Man just be like a bunch of criminals on a bank, be like, oh, let's team up and fight these guys, but they gave a good reason. There's some like tension there, so I actually liked him in the sense of it didn't feel a crossover was forced. Even if it was forced, we still would have liked it because like, oh, you see these characters together. But I felt like it made sense. And the Green Monster's kind of lame, but once again, like it made sense. In the end, he's like Two-Face.
Yeah, I guess that's like a plot device. It works perfectly.
Yeah, like he's the guy that wants to take out mutants. Spider-Man's a mutant now. I like when they take them all out.
X-Men don't like when people are messing with the mutants.
No, Wolverine's pretty touchy about it. I like at the end they're just all like thanking Spider-Man. They're just like, "Thank you, Spider-Man," and they're just like they just love him pretty much. They're just like big old love fest.
Yeah, I really like Spider-Man and that I guess that end fight scene when they are facing Landon as that monster thing, whatever. Is that Beast and Spider-Man kind of have a connection of like, oh, like Beast realizes, oh, you're a smart guy, you're not just
a scientist. He says something like that, or something like a scientific mind. Like he says something like that.
So I really like that. You can see the connection how like Beast is already like you don't really know why Beast is really telling him like, oh no, like everyone needs a friend.
I think because he feels the same way because he kind of like Spider-Man kind of makes it sound like he's gonna turn into something bad, right?
Yeah.
And Beast has been to that situation where he was a man or normal in his mind, and he turned to the Beast. So I think that's where he kind of sees a correlation.
I think that there's like a sort of a parallel between, I guess Spider-Man taking advice from like Uncle Ben as well as Beast. Like I don't know. That's what I really liked about this episode is that he's kind of taking advice from. Mariah, Ben, and Beast. So
some of his elders.
Yeah, I think he's realizing that like he isn't alone in his fights against.
Well, one of his lines at the end, he said, because Beast talks him up, he's like, "Yeah, I do need to turn to my friends."
Yeah.
And then he goes to see Mariah. I just thought it was a big fuck you to Connors, because apparently Connors is not his friend. I feel like he's seen Connors a lot more than Mariah, but he just says the line of like, "I need to turn my friends," so Connors no friend of his, I guess.
Well, I got the feeling that he already been to Connors with like this problem of whatever his genes were doing, and Connors didn't know. That's what I was kind of feeling.
I was just taking Mariah because of the friends line.
Yeah, and Mariah, she already worked on a cure for
with
Craven, so like he already knew like, oh, like she already made a cure. Maybe like she might have the answer to this. So that's how I kind of took it. But I also wanted to say that I really like how McCoy is trying to explain his situation and how the mutants aren't bad. Like we're good people. So I think that was super touchy and. Explaining it to the girl before, like, he even knew she was telekinesis again, right? Like, it's like, oh, why is he telling me this story? And because I had no idea, so I thought it was just really cool and kind of a lot more personal of Beast. So,
do we have any notes?
What else do I have here? I don't know. What do you guys think of Cecil in general? Like, do you think she'll come back?
I don't think she ever does.
No?
No, not even X-Men. I think she just was like a placeholder character.
I guess to combine with Landon.
Yeah, like,
so what happens with Landon? He gets turned back into a human.
Two-Face.
Yeah, he's like, that's what I was thinking, just Two-Face.
He appears in the Batman animated series. He flips a coin.
So, I mean, do you guys think he'll be back too? Like, I don't know.
I'll plead the fifth as I've seen this show 8 times. Kyle, you think he's going to come back?
I think...
Because it seems like he's out of power, but he still obviously has like a big green monster hand.
Again, right? Like, we saw it with the City of Six, and now you have this X-Men crossover, and we've already seen... why am I blanking out?
Phantom?
The Avenger.
Oh,
not
Shield.
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 So like, it's just another villain that they can add later on down the road. This is why I think that they're gonna just keep him around.
Yeah.
How do you feel, Dill?
About him?
Yeah, you think he's coming back?
Not anytime soon.
No.
Maybe sometime down the road, I guess.
Yeah.
But I mean, it seemed like
there are 5 seasons.
Even though he did technically still have like some monster part of him, it seemed like he was pretty done for.
Oh, I said I would ask you. I have 2 questions. One's not fully a fan requested one, but it's fan oriented because I asked. But the first question is, we said we would ask this every time he would appear. Do you guys have any idea who the Hobgoblin could be? We said we would talk about this anytime he came by.
They picked out his mask and they almost took off his mask, but they didn't.
Spider-Man wanted to see his bright blue eyes when we said that to him, but are we still just in unknown land? Do you guys have any more theories? We said we would ask this anytime Hologram would appear until we find out who it is. Or if we find out who it is.
Damn. I totally forgot about that being a thing that we were doing.
I kind of thought about it, but then I still had no idea who it could be. And it's like, they're taking off the mask, and like, I still don't know who Hobgoblin is, to be honest.
Kyle, would you be mad if you never found out in the series?
I think I might be.
I don't think I would be, because he's still like, until you told me that he maybe is like, or he is a
That's
character.
true too.
Like I would just thought he was another villain.
I never said that. I just the only hint I
Oh,
said
you're
to
clearly
you.
hinting to it.
The only hint I said to you is that he is that is a mask. That's all I said. I never said because you guys are like, I bet he's immune, not a monster. I'm like, no, I gave.
I think if he didn't have a mask, I think I would have just rolled with him just being Hobgoblin.
Yeah.
But now knowing he's a mask and that we've seen him before, it really bothers me, and I just kind of wanted to know.
I'm gonna think about it.
I definitely asked that because it festers on Kyle's brain. And the second question is, we talked about a little bit, but a fan asked if this would be the only ones we were doing, and they referred to, it was a Twitter question, and they referred to Batman and X-Men. Who knows? This would be probably even like a year down the line, but would you guys be interested in doing X-Men in the future after this episode? Like, seeing this, like, because this is, let's say you were just a Spider-Man fan like we're doing, seeing this little portion of the X-Men, would that be like, oh, I'd like to see what you do?
Oh, definitely.
Is that,
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I mean, I would consider myself a bigger X-Men fan than Spider-Man fan anyway, so I would definitely be down for that. And obviously after this, and seeing how cool these characters look and how they have good voice actors behind them, I'm so down.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say kind of the opposite. I've always been more like a fan of Spider-Man than X-Men, but I still like the X-Men like movies type. But I still
alright. Yeah.
They're alright. But Spider-Man was always kind of I'd known him as a kid and kind of grew up with more of that than X-Men. Other than knowing who like Wolverine was, but that's kind of just the only other person I knew from
Right. Fair enough.
But for this,
but after seeing this,
I would definitely watch the X-Men, at least maybe a season or two and see how that is. But I was pretty stoked, like seeing them all together and working together. I think it was so cool, and the characters are really awesome, and just the way that the Spider-Man series has been going, I would like to see like another type of series, just like. I guess it's still in the realm of Marvel of just you saw Daredevil, and then you see Jessica Jones.
X-Men, it's very similar to Spider-Man show, like the X-Men show. I think it's 5 seasons too.
Yeah,
so
still kind of like the same type of style, I would imagine, since they've done this crossover. So I'd be stoked to see it.
Well, there you go, folks. That's a reason to subscribe to the GeekVerse. You never know what might be happening in the future, so stay tuned. So finally, we get our last episode of today's.
I got one more quote here.
Oh, sorry.
Snap.
Oh, I guess we didn't even do our ratings either.
Yeah, we haven't even done that.
Sorry, you got excited in the X-Men hype?
Yeah, so I don't remember where this quote comes in, but it's back and forth between Wolverine and Spidey. Spidey says, "You're the one with the nose," and he's like, "What I smell is trouble." Nice line from Wolverine.
What I smell is trouble.
It's like an anti-answer, but he doesn't, because he just doesn't care.
He doesn't.
He's just gonna mess him up.
He's
Whatever
definition of give no fucks Wolverine.
Yeah,
He doesn't
exactly.
care.
Taylor's favorite archetype.
I'll give this one a thumbs up, almost a 2 thumbs up. I think like the first episode more, but a thumb up for the Mutants Revenge for this episode.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, I'll give it another thumbs up. The only thing that I thought was, I guess it was still good, as you guys made good points, it's just the big
the green monster.
The green monster. It kind of just brought it down for me, but otherwise it's still a good thumbs up.
Lennon, the big green monster.
Yeah.
And our final episode of today's Spider-Man Retrospective, just simply titled Morbius.
Yes.
Nothing clever, just Morbius. So if you didn't know he was going to be a villain, you know now. Dr. Maria/Mariah Crawford has developed a cure for Spidey's disease, but she's reluctant to give him the untested serum that may result in permanent loss of his powers or worse. But after an angry outburst from Spider-Man, that scene, we gotta talk about that scene, she hands it over. Peter at the lab is secretly observed by Michael Morbius, who swipes the infected blood sample after Peter leaves for the night from his locker, based on Amazing Spider-Man issue 101 and 102. So,
to be honest, I was pretty down watching this episode because it was just,
like you're down for it, like down, or like you're
I wasn't
In mood.
You weren't in
no,
for it?
I wasn't into it.
Is it because Spider-Man's versing a vampire?
No, I think it's just because I just saw X-Men and now I'm just back into the realm of Spider-Man.
Right.
So like this, I have one note in this entire episode just because I was just so, and he's fighting a.
And we told you this was the one episode where we weren't going to take notes and you had to take them all. So we got one note, ladies and
I think for me, I liked it because I didn't think that the X-Men were going to stick around for very long.
Yeah, I
guess.
That, yeah.
And so I have one quick quote here. When Spidey's really feeling the pain inside him, he's like, feels like I'm getting a massage from Wolverine from the inside.
Yeah.
And so I like that
because the callback.
Because I feel like that's what obviously this isn't an X-Men show, it's a Spider-Man show, so they're not gonna be around a whole lot.
Yeah.
But clearly or hopefully there'll be more of these little references to them, and heck, maybe like Beast will show up in one episode just to help out Spidey with something. Yeah. And so I think I was really stoked on the X-Men, obviously, but I still know this is Spider-Man, and I was ready to move on, I guess.
That's a good point.
And so. And I was also excited to see Morbius because I knew he was going to be some bad guy, and I wanted to see what that would be.
Listen to our last episode. These guys got a creepy feeling from it. Poor guy.
So yeah, I liked this episode.
Yeah, I did too. I've had like a strange relationship with Morbius over the years. There's times where I thought he's kind of lame because it's like Spider-Man versus Vampire. As I've got older, I've appreciated him more and more I've read about him. He's very cool. He's the human living vampire. He's a very big lore in Marvel Comics history. He's tied with Blade and Ghost Rider and all this. Right. So I do like this episode quite a bit too because it is, I don't know, it's a nice solo adventure and it's one of these episodes that we talked about before. The other ones did as well, but this one feels like it's kind of cinematic. I feel like you could see this in a movie. Like, and I don't know if Morbius would happen in movies because Disney and vampires, who knows, but like it has a very... I like the layout and the pacing of this episode.
It was
and it's slower.
Darker.
It's darker, yeah, and to me it's slower than all the episodes so far this season, but I like it. So
I think what I found I like I said, it's darker, and I like that because a lot of the villains so far, Shocker, Mysterio, Dr. Octopus, Hobgoblin, they're all like really, really colorful characters and very cinematic, but this was a little more ominous, a little more dooming, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I meant more cinematic just from like the storytelling, like how they did it, and because all of them are pretty much powered or driven by guilt, like wealth, or they want publicity. Where it's like, it's guilt because like he wants to suck blood / plasma. The reason they say plasma was another sinister thing. They couldn't say blood on TV at that point. So,
but same.
Yeah, but like I like that because he's like kind of tormented by these powers. You don't really, all the villains, you get a sense they like being a villain. Even Venom with Eddie Brock, Venom takes over and you get the sense. But this was the first villain.
It's an urge kind of thing.
Yeah, this is the first, like, I'd say sympathetic villain we've really gotten where it's like you feel for him because you feel like he can't really control it, because it's always like you can hear he has like little voices at one point, like just like chattering of like he's hungry and whatnot. So I do like it. I guess we start more at the beginning soon here. But
what do you think of like? Because I feel like Michael kind of had some like maybe sinister motives in the first place, though, right? Because he was trying to investigate Spider-Man.
He didn't though know what the reason is. One thing. He did bring it upon himself because he stole Peter Parker's plasma. Yeah. So at the end of the day, it's kind of keep your hands to yourself. If he wouldn't have touched that plasma, he'd be fine. So it's still his fault. I don't feel bad. I had them. I know that Spider-Man blames himself, but really, Michael went in his locker. Yeah. He did that. But remember, the reason he's doing that is because he's trying to find a cure for his country. Because where he was from, remember, all those people were getting sick, and he said he would go to America, find a cure, and come back. Okay, yeah. So obviously, he's doing stuff in an illegal way, but he's still motivated by good. He's still trying to good intention. He's still trying to do good by his people. So that's why.
Thanks for clearing that.
He commits a crime, but for the right reasons, So
I kind of forgot about that because you kind of see him and Felicia kind of have their own little bit of a side story.
They're full on couple. I 100% have someone here. Oh, they're having hardcore sex. That's what I had. That's what I had in my notes. The way when they first see each other, he like scares her a bit, and then they just like. She like grabs him and he like grabs her back and they start making out and then that just cuts to a different scene. But I said no, the sex that they're having is like pornographic. Like that's the vibes I got from those two. Like they're doing so much dirty stuff. Like he's the guy that's just like bringing stuff from his country she's never seen before. So that's a vibe. I get Faint Item and I got a vibe that they're just going at it. Obviously they're probably not going at it.
I actually didn't really have that vibe because there's one scene in particular where. Felicia's chilling in her apartment reading a book, and she has a framed picture of him. And I was like,
that too.
I was like, that's kind of strange because I got the feeling that at this point they've been dating for maybe a couple weeks. I was not getting the hardcore sex that they've been popping along. I think so.
I think so, and I think if they were, that's what they're having.
But
that's what I thought.
I don't know. To me, it didn't seem like they had been together that long, and so that's why I was like, why do you have a framed picture of him? I feel like that's a.
But remember, our timelines
because it's the best sex. It's the best, and it's the best sex she ever had.
So that my assumption was like 2 weeks, just based on like how everything else.
It's the best sex she ever had, so she had to like hang him up there, and like, can't let that guy go, So
Alright.
Wow, I guess so.
Back to the very beginning when it's Spider-Man with Mariah talking to you in the lab. He's trying to get the cure, and he literally just calls her out. He's like, "You used it on Craven without knowing anything."
Yeah, he was really.
He's really dicky.
Really aggressive.
Yeah, and I guess they try to play it off as like, oh, because he's in pain. But I feel like he couldn't have got an excuse for that. With the Venom one, the alien costume symbiote, I feel like, oh, that's an excuse. Yeah. But this, like, okay, like, I guess he's in lots of pain. But he was like, then he literally just full on destroys her lab. Like, he didn't even do shit like that when he was Venom. Like the Black Spider-Man, like, he did.
And it seems kind of weird, too, because she kind of calls him out for it. And then, and then he's like, yeah, I am acting kind of weird.
So it's like, and then stops, and then she's like, "Oh, just take it. It's okay."
Yeah, and then the cop Spider-Man, like, and she's completely fine that after. Yeah. So I think they did try to play it off like maybe it was his mutation messing with him, but it came off as him just being a dick. That's what I call it. Like, I think this was kind of negative. They kind of wrote it the wrong way. It didn't come off like it was a pain. It came off like he was choosing just to fuck up her shit in front of her. And he literally just like breaks a desk and everything. Like, he just goes hardcore in her office. Like,
I think it's just interesting how the previous episode is kind of just Spider-Man kind of realizing like who he was, his mutation. And then this, it's all of a sudden like turns like, oh nope, like stomach's hurting, it's like, I need a cure now again. It's I thought we just resolved this issue that you were okay with like, who you are. But...
yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe it's just ramping up, because obviously at the end it does ramp up, so maybe I think that's what they were going for. I just think they didn't portray it well enough, which usually the show does. Yeah. But I think this time, because we saw him do it with the alien costume, but at one point he says that he feels like a heel. I like that, because it's a wrestling term for a bad guy, so it's just a cool little shout out, a heel, so yeah. I
guess he wasn't wrestling, so...
No, not that. No. Well, he did at one point, remember?
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Oh, right. How'd you guys feel about Morbius, how he became the Morbius, the living vampire?
Pretty typical.
Mm-hmm.
It's been by bat.
You remember what happens?
Yeah, I remember.
It's pretty much the same as Spider-Man.
That's what I mean. I was supposed to say, like, exactly the same as Spider-Man. Or, this is what I mean. Like, that's why I don't think I really liked it as much. It's because it's just another Spider-Man origin story, but instead of Spider, it was a bat.
Mm-hmm. So. And did you not like Morbius once he became like the vampire part?
No, I hate his hands. I didn't like his hands.
Oh, his little paw, his suckers?
Yeah, I thought that was really weird.
Pretty creepy.
That's literally the only two notes I had.
I liked, the thing I liked about that transformation is that it was like a minute or two prior, he was talking to Felicia and he's like, these bats don't bite humans. And then 2 minutes later, he gets bit by one and gets turned into this beast.
Well, that's the thing. He seems like a very smart guy, but he also at the same time, and in previous episodes too, feels like he doesn't have that much common sense. Like, they almost seem like they do try to play him off as like the stereotypical like foreigner that doesn't know too much. Like, he's smart science, but he's just like, oh, like I know what I'm doing, and it's like, not really. But I did like when he gets turned into Morbius the vampire, that for the first like 30 seconds, he's so down with all his powers. He's floating, he's like, I'm so strong and I feel so healthy. And he sees his hands and he looks in the mirror and it completely switches. He's like, no! And like, so I liked that for a little bit. And then there's a good reveal of him when he sees Felicia and he's just like on her patio. Yeah. And she literally just like faints. Yeah. Like, I liked the reveal of him, and I liked him. Like, he wasn't just like kind of like the Venom thing. I like Venom, but it's not the same thing. Like I said, he felt strong, but then he immediately regretted because he saw what happened to him, and he felt bad, and then he was going around sucking people's blood. So I like the reveal.
I liked him. I guess his hands were weird, but it didn't like creep me out or make me feel weird or anything. It was just like.
It doesn't bite you. It's his hands.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I thought. I liked that he could fly. I thought that was cool as well.
Oh yeah, it was interesting.
I like that. It was interesting.
You can tell how much I like this episode.
I like when Peter tries to go warn Felicia about Michael. She's just like, "You're just trying to get me back," and she's just like, still feels like she's maybe still a little hung up on Peter. Not hung up, but she's still like.
I think she likes having control over Peter and like things like. Always
she wants to be better than Peter.
That, or always want someone to need her, because when you know you got it in the bag, like, you kind of just milk it.
And you got it flaunted, right?
She's definitely milking it.
Mm-hmm.
She's been known.
She's milking more things than Peter's pride. Hashtag Morbius.
Hashtag Morbius.
There's a big fight at the end, which I actually liked their fights. There wasn't anything like amazing, but I thought they were good. And then it kind of ends with I can't remember what, but Felicia blames. She gets the cops to go after Spider-Man. I can't remember the actual setup of it now.
Well, because it'd be like the sun comes up, and then it kind of transforms him back, and then Spidey leaves him there, and then
he's knocked out.
Pieces out, and then I think Felicia was hanging out, so the cops came and all
And
this stuff.
yeah, because he's knocked out. She says, "Oh, Spider-Man did this," and then when it's night again, Morbius fucks off and
From the
leaves.
hospital, he pieces right out.
Yeah, so I thought that was kind of like, I guess I get why she's doing it. She's flustered. She's going through a lot, but that was kind of a dick move. Spider-Man saved her a couple times now, and just to throw that on Spider-Man, and she clearly saw.
Yeah.
I guess maybe she thought she was dreaming, but she saw Michael as a vampire, so she knows something's like.
She's conflicted, between Morbius and Flash and Peter,
Flash. Haven't seen Flash in a while.
He was in season 2. I think he was in one episode.
Yeah,
I think he was the first episode when was it, or maybe it was this one where he saw Morbius with Felicia, or like saw something like that, and he got some sort of jealous, like, hey, and she's like, we're not dating or something. Like,
Yeah, classic.
his screen
classic
is gone
Felicia
down
move.
quick.
Yeah.
Does anyone have any other notes before I have like the last thing that happens in this episode, like the big thing, I guess?
What's the big thing between Mary Jane? Is that what you're talking about?
No, the big thing that happens to Peter at the end.
Oh, right. Okay, well, I guess we should quickly talk about Mary Jane then, because she's kind of feeling a little bit dejected, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I actually don't remember this.
Peter blew off again, and then there's a scene where Mary Jane's talking to her friend.
Right!
Yeah, and then Peter's like walking by, and he like acknowledges her, and he's like, I don't want to talk to her. He pieces out.
No, that's what happened. She goes, Peter, and
Yeah.
he's just like running. He doesn't even notice her.
Well, but he did notice her.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did notice her. I think another quote is something like, I don't want to, bother Mary Jane with my mutations and stuff. And then, she calls out, and then he just keeps going. And I love the line that her friend had.
Yeah.
If a man avoids a major babe like you, it can mean only one thing. He isn't human anymore.
Very on the nose. No, I did like that one. I'm glad you brought that up. And that's why you see them in this episode. Obviously, it's a busy episode, but
yeah.
So they're still figuring stuff out. They're still they've kissed, but they're.
That doesn't mean anything.
Well, I think it means something. I think it's like Dale said, it's a slow evolution, but I think it still means a little bit. So
2 steps forward, 1 step back.
Something like that. Yeah.
And then in this episode, it ends with Peter. He's in extreme pain. He's at home. It ends with he grows 2 other arms, or 4 other arms. So now he has 6 arms.
8 legs in total.
Kyle, do you not remember this at all?
No, I must have blacked out. What?
This is massive.
Yeah, it ends. He's like, oh my god, this pain. And then his sides, he grows 2 other arms, or 4 other arms. So now he has.
I totally forgot about this.
Now he's a real spider. He's got 8 ligaments.
Damn, that mutation though.
So what do you guys think is next in the next episode before we give our overall with these arms things? What do you think?
Well, Morbius is on the loose, but I'm pretty sure this isn't a part 2-er, so I'm thinking
I don't think it is.
I think he's gonna mess off for a bit, and then. Oh man, I don't know. I'm pretty excited though. Like I'm really.
Have you
excited.
seen the synopsis for the next episode?
No, I haven't.
And you haven't either.
No.
Oh,
I finished this like 20 minutes before we started, or like 10 minutes before we started recording today. So I just closed it and then just drove over here ASAP. So I don't actually know anything.
Oh man, it's a good one. It's a doozy, ladies and gentlemen.
Wow.
Kyle, you got any predictions or thoughts on that?
I have no idea what's gonna happen.
Dr. Octopus fight? That could work.
Oh my goodness. It's gonna get back to Dr. Connors and.
Look what Mariah did. I'll start with the rating. I'll give it a thumbs up. I quite liked the episode for all the reasons I listed. Good episode, solid episode. Yeah.
I liked Morbius. I thought he was a good villain, and then obviously I love the reveal at the end. So yeah, another thumbs up for me. It's okay, Kyle. You don't have to.
You don't have to.
I know. I think I'm gonna put it sideways.
In the middle.
No, I'm just trying to think of other episodes I would have given sideways or down. Like it's still good, but I feel like.
Well, I feel like season 2 is also a separate beast, I guess, from season 1.
Okay, so I'll look at it from season 2. I'll give it a middle, just because I was so hyped on everything else that's happened the first 5 episodes, and this one was kind of. It was still good, but like
the intensity ramped down.
Yeah, like I just wasn't super into it, so.
I think you'll like the episode more in retrospective. That's a little hint I can drop on you.
Okay.
It leads to some great stuff. So.
Okay.
So. What would we pick? We do this at the end of every episode of the Spider-Man Retrospective, the animated series. We pick our favorite episode out of the ones we reviewed. You guys got any ones jumping out at you right now?
Episode 4.
Episode 4? Since we just talked about 4 and 5 so much, it's hard for me to differentiate what exactly happened in each one.
5 is more of the fighting Landon.
I'd say I'll give it to episode 4.
Yeah, I would too.
Just because I was a little let down by Landon, the big green.
Yeah, and that's why I give it to. Even though I still like that part quite a bit, first episode's so good. You got the reveal of Hobgoblin, the way they reveal X-Men.
The
Spider-Man
introduction,
has these fights. He goes in the danger room.
And then
Episode four is-
Uncle Ben thing is in episode 4 too.
Yeah.
And I love that.
Yeah, so I think we're all great. So we still yet to have an episode where we've all picked a different one. So
True.
that we'll see if that day ever happens. But yeah, episode 4 is great. I love the X-Men one. I love the X-Men. So
It was just so good.
yeah. So that's it. I guess we're closing the page on.
It's been fun to do this.
Yeah, it's been very fun. Go to geekverspodcast.com to stay up on all the dates on our. I screwed that up, but all on our social media on Twitter and Facebook, where we give you show schedule and this and that. If you want to follow this show or any other shows, you can go to all our links as far as iTunes, SoundCloud, YouTube, Google Play, Twitch,
Stitcher Radio.
They're all there. Yeah, if you got a couple extra bucks that you're like, hey, you're just gonna throw in your piggy bank. Maybe throw them over us.
Throw it in our piggy bank.
Yeah, throw them in our piggy bank. Because guess what? If you throw them in our piggy bank, you can get these episodes early. So I know there's some of you listen to this to a month early. You're going to be listening to this, I could listen to this to a month earlier. Head over to Patreon. If not, please hit us with a like or a subscribe or something like that. Give us a little help out for all the great content we put out.
Be part of the conversation on r/Reddit.
Yes.
Yeah, I forgot about
Or
Reddit.
r/GeekVerse, sorry.
Yeah.
r/GeekVerse podcast.
Podcast.
One word. Yeah.
And until then...
You can
Catch us on the... I thought we were all going to do it the same time.
Oh, sorry.
Let's do it again. 1, 2, 3.
Catch